What's up guys, this is Top 3 Vio here. Today I'm going to show you what I took to the Fredericksburg, Virginia Regional, and I decided to take Metal Foes. So let's go ahead and get into the profile. So first I played 3 of each Metal Foe. I think this is pretty standard, doesn't really need much explanation, but these are what allowed me to make all of my plays all day long. Next we have the Magispector engine. We have 3 Raccoons and 1 Unicorn. These are really good all day because whenever I summon Unicorn, it was extremely difficult for opponents to play around it. And one thing that I think a lot of people don't realize is that you can return your Metal Foe monsters back to your hand with Unicorn and then reset them as scales. And so there were a lot of games where I would summon like a Volflame with counter, and I would just be beating them down with Kieran and Volflame. And then whenever I need to use Kieran's effect, instead of bouncing itself, I would just bounce back the Volflame and then I could pop one of my scales and then set this back as another scale. And if this were to be destroyed, I could just summon it back out. And so this was really good. So these are what I sort of called the power play cards. And what I mean by that is all of these allow me to make more power plays. So this is 3 Gofu, 3 Jowgen, 1 Qliefort Scout, 1 Monolith, Luster Pendulum, and Rescue Rabbit. And anytime I drew any of these in my opening hand with some Metal Foe scales, I could make really good first turn boards. So like with Gofu, you can make Zulkin or other synchros. Jowgen, your opponent just can't special summon, which is huge. And if you can combine Jowgen with a Unicorn, then they just kind of lose that game. Qliefort Scout and Monolith for Cyber Dragon Infinity. I think I only summoned it twice all day, but there were a lot of games where I just drew Monolith and was able to beat opponents down with 2400 attack. Luster Pendulum for Ignister. Rescue Rabbit's extremely versatile because it allows you to summon any 2 of your Metal Foe monsters except for Volflame. And so it can instantly give you any of your Metal Foe's fusions, or also a rank 3 or rank 4. And then by extension, Rescue Rabbit to out the anti-spell fragrance, because you can summon this, use this effect to summon 2 Silvers and go in a Break Sword or Grand Pulse to destroy anti-spell fragrance. So Rescue Rabbit was really good. 2 Eccentric Archfiends for hitting back row. This is really good for hitting Solemn Strikes all day. And then finally for the monsters, we played 5 hand traps. We played 3 Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries and 2 Maxis. And I thought this was a really good idea going into the event because I knew ABCs was going to be huge, and Cherries gave me a main deck out going second to their boards. Same with Maxi. Their main play is like summon the Gadget, special summon the little ABC, go into Tsukuyomi, then summon Buster Dragon. I'm going to draw off the Gadget summon, the Xyz summon, and then the Buster Dragon summon. And if any of those things don't happen, then they're going to lose that game because I'm going to be able to capitalize on my next turn. And same with Cherries. I won so many games, even against other decks aside from ABC, off of Cherries. And so usually when I resolve Cherries, I pretty much win that game. Like, yes, I'm -1 for the rest of the turn, but Metal Foes is a deck that can operate with 1 less card pretty easily, especially if my opponent's going to be missing one of their key pieces. Another thing that people don't realize is that Cherries is a level 3 tuner. And so there was one game where I Pendulum summoned it with an Adamante, and I used it to Synchro Summon a Void Ogre Dragon. It also has 1800 defense, which is pretty respectable. For the spells, we played 2 Pot of Desires, 2 Summoner's Art, 2 Painful Decision, 2 MSTs, and 1 Metal Foe's Fusion. I was on the fence about playing Pot of Desires for a while for fear of banishing the Metal Foe's Fusion or Unicorn, but it's easy to play around because you can search your Fusion, so really the only thing to worry about is banishing your Unicorn. But even banishing Unicorn doesn't mean you lose the game, it just makes it sometimes a little harder. And so a +1 is definitely worth it, in my opinion. Summoner's Art was really good for getting my Qliefort combo going. I do wish it could search low scales though. Painful Decision was often a lot better because it could search higher low scales. The only problem with Painful Decision is that it's once per turn, so I guess that's sort of the trade-off. MST was really good to play in the main deck because you could hit Union Hanger with it, you could hit Strikes with it, and also a lot of ABC decks were main decking anti-spell fragrance, so this gave me a main deck out to anti-spell as well, because I really just didn't want to lose to that. And then for the traps, I only played 2 Metal Foe's Counter, 1 Combination, and 1 Vanity's Emptiness. Because really you never want to draw your Metal Foe's cards, you just want to search them. Like, although multiple counter is really good, it's also sort of susceptible to Twin Twister, and now that ABCs are out, it's like every other deck's playing triple Twin Twister. And so I felt that playing triple counter wasn't the correct choice because of that. And again, I also wanted to maximize the probability of me opening with combo cards, not my trap card. And the only trap that was really acceptable for me to draw was Vanity's Emptiness, but that only came up once, I think. Maybe twice, max. But overall, I'm really happy with this ratio. I never felt that I needed more counters or more combinations, and it was really good not drawing them as often either. For the fusions, I played 1 Adamante, 2 Orichalc, and 1 Dinister. The Metal Foe fusions were great. Like I thought about playing Crimsonite for a while, but I never needed to go into Crimsonite. I never needed the second Adamante, and I went into the second Orichalc all the time, but I never needed the third. And so this was the perfect ratio of Metal Foe's fusions in my opinion. Dinister, however, I never went into once. I never wanted to go into it, and so I'll probably take this out for something else. I just didn't find this useful today. Because while it protects your Pendulum monsters, I don't really need them to be protected because I can Pendulum summon them back and I always have access to more scales. And so even when protecting my scales, it's like if they destroy my scales, I have counter to get it back, combination, as well as just having so many Pendulum monsters in the deck. I just never really found this useful. For the synchros, I played one Ultimaya Zulkin, one Crystal Wing, one Ignister, and one Void Ogre Dragon. This is also pretty standard, except for maybe the Void Ogre Dragon. But Void Ogre Dragon was really good. Like, there was one game against Blue Eyes where I had Jowgen and Void Ogre Dragon, and there was just no way he could get around that. Like, it was just game over. So Void Ogre put in work. Also being able to summon with Cherries and Adamante came up a couple of times. Ignister was really good for clearing boards, and Crystal Wing was obviously good in a lot of games. And then for the Exeeks monsters, I played one Cyber Dragon Nova, one Infinity, one Break Sword, and one Grampus. I didn't go into Infinity much, like I said before, but when I went into it, it was really awesome. And just having the ability to summon it was really useful all day long. And then one Break Sword and one Grampus. I cleared a lot of back row Grampus because having 2800 defense is so important, because I could just summon it in defense, hit a back row, and then my opponent was gonna have a lot of trouble dealing with that defense. So most times I'd be able to just hit another back row on my next turn, and I would have counters set. So even if they did get over it, I'd be able to make a follow-up play. And Break Sword was better aggressively in that I could summon this and just clear their boards and attack for game. Right, one thing that I did a lot of times was I would summon Break Sword and Orichalc, and I would use Break Sword to hit Orichalc so I could destroy 2 of their cards, and then push for game afterwards. And then finally, the Cherries targets. I played one ABC Buster Dragon, one Blue Eye Spirit Dragon, and then one Dante. And these two came up a lot. Like, main decking Cherries was amazing against ABCs because they never saw it coming, so there was no Scramble Union, no Magnet Reverse, none of that stuff. And then Metal Foes is definitely a good enough deck to beat rank 4 spam, which is all ABCs is if you take out Buster Dragon. And I did resolve Cherries against Blue Eyes once, where I was able to banish his Spirit Dragons, but his hand was good enough to play around it. So like he ended his field with Alternative, set Emptiness, and set Wind Blast, and I just couldn't play around the Emptiness and the Wind Blast. Like, yeah, it would have been worse if he had a Spirit Dragon on top of that, but Emptiness Wind Blast was good enough. And so like in Blue Eyes, it's like Cherries isn't a blowout card like it is against ABCs and Dante, but rather it just keeps them from summoning your biggest fear. Because Blue Eyes is really hard to play around. If they didn't have the Emptiness and the Wind Blast, like it took both to stop me. If it was just Emptiness or just the Wind Blast, I'd be able to play around that, but both was just too much. And then I only played one Burning Abyss all day, but I bricked, so I couldn't follow up. And so while Cherries is good, it's like the rest of your hand has to be good too. It's not just a card that you can activate and just win the game. But it's sort of like that with every side card. Like, you just can't activate one card and expect to win the game. You have to have that one card and then follow up with your own plays. And so there were a couple of times within the event that I couldn't follow up. And so that's definitely something I need to look at my deck building to try to fix. Possibly by playing more standalone cards, or maybe getting rid of some cards that are too specific, like Jowgen. Because there were a lot of times where I'd have Jowgen, but I couldn't really follow up because it was like, once I Pendulum Summon Jowgen, I can't really do much the rest of the turn. If I normal summon Jowgen, they can just attack over it. And so even with Cherries, it was like, if I activate Cherries against any of these decks, if I have Jowgen afterwards, it doesn't really do me anything unless I'm against Blue Eyes. And so I might actually cut Jowgen to 2. So then for the side deck, I played 2 Gameciel, 1 Radiant, 2 Ghost Ogres, 2 Flying Seas, 2 System Downs, you can't really see it, there it is. 2 System Down, 2 Book of Eclipse, 1 Cosmic Cyclone, 1 Twin Twisters, and 2 Drowning Mirror Forces. And so the Kaijus were okay. I sided them against any deck that could summon Monster Floodgates, and so I would side them in against Blue Eyes. I'd side it in against Burning Abyss. Like, Beatrice isn't a Monster Floodgate, but I do want to out that efficiently. I sided it against ABCs. And I'm still sort of mixed against siding against ABCs because a lot of players are going to just tag out on the beginning of your turn, like in your draw standby phase, so that you can't Kaiju them. And so it's definitely something that will change depending on how the format develops and how players develop their strategies. Ghost Ogre was really good, however, because I could use it against ABC Buster Dragon on their turn when they're trying to banish one of my cards. I can use it against Hanger. It's also good in the mirror match. It's good against so many different decks that I definitely see this as being a necessary card in your side deck right now. Then 2 Flying Seas. This was for Burning Abyss. I only played them once, and then in game 2, I bricked by drawing both of them, Cherries, and a Kaiju. Yeah, so it was really, really bad. But it's not that Flying Sea itself was bad. It was more or less the rest of my hand was bad. So maybe I oversided in that matchup a little bit, or it could have just been a bad shuffle. But regardless, I wasn't happy with Flying Sea at the event, and so it's susceptible to being changed in the future. 2 System Downs, those are really good. Like, every time I resolve System Down, I think I won that game. It's just so powerful being able to get rid of the Buster Dragon on the field, and all of the little ones in the graveyard as well. So it just turns all of their setup into nothing. Book of Eclipse was really bad. I didn't like this at all. And I think in theory, it was like something to enter established boards. Like, I could just play it against a Buster Dragon and they won't be able to do anything. But if they tag out on some of the 3 floaters in face down defense, like, they still have 3 floaters in defense. And if I can't out them, they're just gonna draw cards. And then when I was putting this together, I also forgot that Meta Specters contribute face downs. And so like I was playing against Magic Specters one round. I was about to side these in, and I was like, wait a second, this is not a good card. They can distribute it. Doesn't matter if it's face up or face down. And then they get into Answer the Blue-Eye Spirit Dragon, but so are the Kaijus. So I really found this unnecessary. It's probably something I wouldn't side again. At least not, like, it's not a bad card, but this format with ABCs out, it just doesn't do anything against ABCs. And they're better cards that can side against Blue Eyes for Spirit Dragon. Cosmic Cyclone and Twin Twister are really good. I sided in Cosmic Cyclone every single game, but I would only side in Twin Twisters if I was going second, or if it was against a deck that might have any spell. So if I was playing the mirror match, I wouldn't side in the Twin Twister unless I saw Solemns or something. So it was like Cosmic Cyclone every single game, Twin Twisters every now and then. Batteries died, so I had to reset. But definitely the MVP of the side deck was Drowning Mirror Force. I think every time I resolved this, I won the game, and nobody ever saw it coming once. And so like there was one game against Magic Specters where he summons a Magic Specter monster, plays Ties of the Brethren, and I'm like, okay, I guess I lose this game. But instead I top deck a Drowning Mirror Force and return all of his monsters to his deck, and I just beat him down after that. So it single-handedly won me that round. Let's see, I also resolved this against Blue Eyes once. I resolved it against Infernoids. Like, it was just really good. And the best thing about it is that it fixes your bad hands in that there are a lot of times where you might draw all high scales or all low scales, and all you can do is just keep destroying them and setting like counter and combination, things to set you up for your next turn. When you have that Drowning Mirror Force, it turns your bad hand into a good one because you can just return everything back to their deck. They never see it coming. And you can capitalize on your next turn with a combination or something. So I'm super happy with Drowning, and this is like the last two cards. These are the last two cards I even added to the side deck. Like I wrote down 12 cards, and I was like, okay, what else do I add in? So I added the Radiant, and then 2 Drownings, and it was perfect. Alright guys, this has been my Metal Flow deck profile from what I took to the regional. If you're interested in the tournament report, that's going to be coming out tomorrow. So definitely be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And definitely subscribe so you're notified when this video comes up tomorrow so you can know how I actually did with the deck. And so once again, thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you all later. Bye.
I find myself thinking about our sweetest day back. Love to daydream about those memories made when the ocean slipped our hearts.